Throw us up there, please. We're just waiting on, we good to go? Okay, we're good to go. All right, y'all, I'd like to call to order the January 28th, 2025 meeting of the City of Charleston's Traffic and Transportation Committee. Thank everybody for coming here. We've got a pretty full agenda today, so we're going to move through it, but we're not going to do so before we begin with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay. Just for those who are visiting with us today, this is the Committee of Traffic and Transportation. The members of this committee are myself, the mayor, Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Brady, and Councilmember McBride, who's on the screen. I also know that we've got Councilmember Bowden, who's going to participate a little bit, but those are the members. We're missing one. Councilmember Gregg is on an airplane heading for California. So first order of business is approval of minutes from November 26, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any additions, deletions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. The ayes have it. All right, right off, starting number 3, authorization for low-line project funding, Mayor Cogswell et al.
All right.
Takes-
Might be having some et
15
al.
Right.
No, I don't think I have to introduce any of the council members or committee members to the Low Line project. It is originally contemplated or conceived rather in 2013. This is a multi-use path that would run frankly from Mount Pleasant Street ultimately all the way down to Marion Square and provide an incredible linear park and bike ped access for residents of the city, and not just the peninsula, and of course visitors as well. So this has been something that has had many fits and starts, and I think we're at a place right now where we can make meaningful progress forward and get started on the first phase, which would run from Mount Pleasant Street all the way down to Line Street, hopefully by the end of the year. And so the idea, what we're asking for tonight is, or today, excuse me, is for this committee to bless the idea of funding $15 million towards this effort, which is what it is anticipated to cost, the first phase. And again, want to be clear, that is the path itself. There are also in the future options for additional park spaces and resiliency measures along this path around Newmarket Creek and some other areas along the way. And then a phase 2, which ultimately would go from Line Street down to Marion Square. And a lot of that we are targeting having being funded by the private sector because it ties into several multi-million dollar redevelopment initiatives. The first of which is scheduled to be coming out of the ground soon is the Courier Square. So that's the general gist of it. Happy to answer questions. I do think it's important to talk about where this funding would be anticipated coming from, and that is the Cooper River Bridge TIF. The Cooper River Bridge TIF area is contiguous or adjacent to much of the low line, so believe that it would have an incredible impact on that community and be a responsible expenditure of those funds, again, which can only be spent in that area. It's not like we're taking $15 million that could be spent on Johns Island Road widening and spending it on this. This is funding because of the TIF that is earmarked only for this area. And when it comes to other opportunities in the Cooper River Bridge TIF, if you'll recall some of the conversations that we had earlier this year, and we had our financial consultants run analyses of how much money is currently in that TIF, which is approximately $30 million. There's the ability to borrow or bond off of approximately another $30 million. Between those two, you're looking at around $60 million in investment, again, that needs to be invested in this general area. And the ideas that we've considered, of course, are the low line, which we're talking about today, the offer made to Charleston County on 995 Morrison, which I have an update. I spoke with the chairman a few minutes ago, and they are voting on a response for us tonight at their council meeting. So we'll get some clarity on which direction they want to go there. And other drainage projects, Cooper Jackson Street area, as well as the old bridge corridor, and then significant improvements that are to be designed for Martin Park in that area. And when you add all those up, that doesn't get us to what we have capacity to do. But my point is making all this out is that the 30 we have offered for the county and this 15, it still leaves money enough for us to do significant other projects in the community. Now, why do this now? We've been taking a deep dive on this. We're not just trying to spend the money because we have it. I think very strongly that this is the fiscally responsible thing to do, and here's why. When you look at a lot of the city projects, indeed most of the government projects that have been priced 10 years ago versus where they're pricing today, it's about a 10% average annual growth rate in terms of costs going up. The city, while we don't love to borrow money, we can borrow money at 4 to 5%. So if a cost is going up at 10% and you can borrow at 4 to 5, it's accretive to the city to do it and do it now. Every year that goes by, we seem to be losing the financial firepower to implement a lot of these initiatives that have been out there for years. And so there's a bit of an urgency from my perspective to moving this forward. This is something that has been well vetted within the community and I believe is very well received by and large from advocacy groups, from civic groups, from residents alike. And frankly, I think will be an incredible amenity to this area and something that has been, frankly, a bit of an eyesore for 30 years. So I'm very excited about it, and I think it is the right thing to do from a planning and civic space perspective, but also a good financial investment for the city in our future. So with that, I'm happy to stop talking and hand it over for anybody that might have questions.
All right, questions. Councilmember Gregory, I see your hand up.
Yeah. Can anyone tell me how much of the Cooper River TIF dollars that we have already spent in the immediate area where there's blighting influence, such as flooding, dilapidated buildings, the whole shebang? How much have we already spent, okay, from that fund in the immediate area? I'm not talking about areas that are contiguous. I'm talking about the immediate area of the TIF.
I'll maybe call on Amy Wharton, but I believe a $12 million bond was issued that has been funded, and that helped with like the James Lewis apartments. That helped. Part of the funding was used for other improvements to the Cooper River Bridge corridor there. And then we recently approved, and whether or not this would be coming out of those funds or not, the $3 million allocation for affordable housing for UG Street. So is that 15 total, Amy? And looks like they're digging into it now.
And 537 for pedestrian, and then safety only 5, safety with department, and then the low line. So allocated for the first 12 months.
Okay. And I think the project on the 3 million, okay, right, that's not in the immediate area. That's outside, that's contiguous. Yeah, what I'm trying to get a sense of, and that you're helping, trust me, okay, is we're getting ready potentially to spend $45 million here. Okay. And the reason why we had the TIF is as a result of the blight in a specific area. And it appears to me, just based upon the numbers, okay, most of those dollars will be outside of the immediate area where the TIF is configured. Okay, so Morrison.
No,
Yeah.
if there's a map that's on the screen right there,
Right.
what you have, affordable housing, of course, can be within close proximity as long as it is impacting the TIF. And so the 995, and you'll recall this discussion when we talked about the offer, it is literally contiguous with it. You see there to the north. And then if you look from where we are, Line Street, I mean, the low line goes from Marion Square, like I say, up to Mount Pleasant Street, roughly along King Street and between King and Meeting, right? Which is 2/3 of it may not be all contiguous to the TIF actual district itself, but it's within a block. So in terms of the impact for the residents and businesses there, I think it would certainly be very impactful on those businesses.
Well, you see what I'm getting at.
Sure.
Everybody see where I'm going with this. I mean, if we're gonna spend $45 million, that's considerable. And 45 million, and trust, I support the low line. I'm having some discussion here. 45 million just seems like, I mean, while these projects are contiguous, $45 million in the immediate area, okay, would be unbelievable. By that, I mean, how much will the drainage cost over time? The drainage, because there are drainage issues in that TIF, serious drainage issues in that TIF district, I believe.
Yeah, we're actually putting a lot of those numbers together, both short and long term. We have the short term, Cooper Jackson, and we're bridging the gap on some of the funding there is being contemplated with TIF funds. A big component of the flooding, long term, will be dependent on what happens with the Army Corps. And you don't really want to implement certain improvements without knowing what's going to happen to New Market Creek and whether or not there'll be protection there versus what will happen there in terms of storm surge and flooding protection.
That's the kind of comprehensive approach, at least for me, okay, I'd like to see. I would like to see what is our grand plan for that TIF district, particularly as it relates to water, because it's the water stupid to me, wherever we are. And I'm a big advocate of affordable housing development, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all for naught if we don't deal with the water. And we have people in that district who've been dealing with the water for generations. All I want is a comprehensive plan, and I hate to use that term, but plan. Okay. With regard to the TIF district and the contiguous areas. That way I'm making an informed decision. Right now, I don't feel as informed as I'd like to be when we're getting ready to spend $45 million. Just for the record.
So I see Councilmember McBride has his hand up. Councilmember McBride? Floor is
Yes,
yours.
thanks. Sorry about that. Make sure I'm off mute here. Yeah, so this is looks like I like the concept of this thing, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from constituents from that area. It's obviously not near my district and District 3, but a lot of constituents from that area like the overall concept. It looks like it's something that Charleston needs. Sorry about that. The one concern that some constituents had was let me get the words right here, the skate park. Let's see, the bridge, what's it called? What do you help me out here? The Bridge Spot Skate Park. And my understanding is that is not going to be affected in this plan, at least from the city's perspective. There's no plan in the city's perspective with this low line project to negatively impact the Bridge Spot Skate Park. So I just wanted to get that out in the public because I got about 1,000 emails on that topic. So just want to get that out there. Thanks.
Thanks. Any other comments from anybody around the table on the committee? Councilmember Gregory, I agree with you about the water. And one of the things I would point out here is, I mean, the whole idea with TIF districts is to take an area that's got challenges. We use the word blight, but that comes in many different forms. And particularly, as you know, having grown up here, that UG Street corridor is one of the most challenged corridors we've got when it comes to water. UG Street intersects the low line in one of the places at its lowest point. And so a lot of the improvements that will come as a natural result of what's going to happen of this project will be to make that corridor passable. And to me, that being the northern exit east-west from the Citadel all the way across on many days is literally impassable, and coming back the other way too. This is going to be a huge improvement to it. And, you know, as we go through this and design, you know, the $45 million number, that ultimately may be where we go with this, but it's going to be in increments, and we're going to start at the beginning, right, at the most basic, right, and go from there. So I think,
If I may, it's not 45 million for the
Right.
low line.
Right.
It's 15. And we got to make a decision ultimately on what the county decides. They may not opt to sell us that land. So it may, what we're talking about tonight for clarity is 15 million.
right. So just to keep it all in perspective. All right. By the way, just for purposes of this committee, I think is the request a recommendation from this committee on through Ways and Means and City Council to approve the $15 million?
Yes.
Okay. So any other discussion? Can I get a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember McBride and or Brady. Any further discussion? The motion is to carry this on to Ways and Means and City Council as an approved matter from this committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it, with one abstention. All right, thank you all very much. Next is authorization for the mayor to sign a license agreement with the state sports authority to use parking lot for food and beverage service employees.
You got it.
Thank you, Chairman. This is for 70 parking spaces in Lot B near the port. The port is agreeing to give us this at no charge. The reason it's on the floor is we would be responsible for maintenance of the lot itself, any potholes or fence repairs. But otherwise, this will be strictly for F&B passes.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, resolution supporting Charleston County's Better Northbridge application for US DOT 2025 RAISE grant, which maybe is the short answer right now. As you've all seen, all federal funding for all projects across the country has been suspended till at least February. Anyway, with that being said.
That being what it may, I'll move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Sure.
Are we obligating ourselves, I'm sorry, thank you. Are we obligating, I read through it quickly. Are we obligating ourselves to participate financially in this project?
No, all we're doing is sending on a communication to the chairman and rest of council that we support them applying for and pursuing the grant.
I just wanted the record to reflect that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Revenue neutral to us, but certainly not to us in terms of the benefits that it will bring to us, right? Okay, did we vote? All in favor? Aye, yes?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next. Okay, discussion, golf carts on multi-use paths, in parentheses, potential action. I saw Ms. Copeland's name, but I see Ms. Deek standing
Ms.
before
Deek,
us.
yes.
Welcome, thank you.
She's on the agenda as there's a state statute that prohibits golf carts on multi-use paths. As a consequence, the city has installed bollards to prevent golf carts from using those multi-use paths. Came to our attention that some residents and Councilmember Bowden had expressed an interest in exploring an ordinance that would allow for golf carts to utilize the multi-use path near Drayton Hall Elementary to get off of 61. There's some traffic issues there. We are working with legal to make that happen, but with the proliferation of golf carts, we want to make sure that we're surgical in that approach and that we don't have an enforcement issue down the line. So we can get some guidance from this committee on how you'd like to proceed.
Will it be precedent setting?
All right, Councilmember Gregory, can you?
Would it be precedent setting?
Well, I think that's why we're working with legal, is to make sure that we're strategic in how we evaluate this, because it could become a problem if everywhere wants to allow for golf carts on these paths. So that's why it's important that we get it right this time.
Okay, any other questions? I see Councilmember Bowden, but any other questions from members of the committee first? Councilmember Brady?
Would that extend, just because I know Councilmember Bowden and I border each other, would that extend to Beast Ferry Road's multi-use path, or is it just restricted to the area that you had brought up?
Well, I mean, that's why we're working with legal. We need to be very strategic and very surgical about how we approach this, because it could be very problematic with as many golf carts as out there. Currently, we can't open up all paths to allow for that kind of traffic.
I was just thinking of, just because it is a high traffic corridor, with the amount of commercial going in, it might actually be a traffic alleviating type thing, that allowing more folks to actually use the golf carts to get to the Harris Teeter, especially in that plaza that's got a lot of daily use items. Because I know it already goes on, especially for the folks in Grand Oaks and Councilmember Bowden's district, they frequent that. But with those neighborhoods right around there, it might be something just to look at as doing it as an overlay zone or something to that effect.
Yeah, again, if we have a holistic approach to it so that we consider all concerns, I think that's how we need to proceed.
I'm going to recognize Councilmember Bowden, who is not a member of the committee, but this does directly affect one of these issues, his district. So Councilmember Bowden, I'm going to give you the floor.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So what I had in mind here was, enumerating the Ashley River bike path in the ordinance, which I think is what state law would require. It wouldn't open the floodgates to anything because you'd have to go back through this process individually for each one that you want to enumerate to allow golf carts on there, is my reading of state law. The reality is this is just an unbelievably congested area. You've heard, Councilmember Shealy talk about the brake light parade. Well, that extends further than Glen McConnell out, all the way down 61, and, they're only building more houses out that way. So really this took a pretty creative solution to a kind of intractable problem, and, sort of made it worse. But forcing those cars back onto the road at peak times. I can tell you that this created some issues for CCSD that they're not thrilled about. Obviously we need to follow the law, but there are other protections in state law to limit the impact of golf carts. Can't be more than 4 miles from your house. Have to have insurance. Have to have it registered. So on and so forth. And I think any ordinance should include protections for pedestrians and bikers. People on golf carts would need to yield to those folks to make sure that they remain safe and can freely use it as well. So I agree with everybody. I think this should be limited. I don't want, something that would open the floodgates to just, golf carts everywhere. Just like I said, artful solution to a difficult problem.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
I can make a suggestion. I think this requires some thoughtfulness, and it is, certainly unique in certain areas versus others. We don't want to set precedent. This is something that does significantly impact Councilman Bowden, Councilman Brady, Councilman Shealy's district. Certainly would love to have them involved with Ms. Deek and Ms. Copeland on drafting some of this language, and hopefully can have that language back before this committee by our next meeting. And want to make sure too, as Councilman Bowden pointed out, and I think this is the balance that needs to be run, is that it needs to be safe for bike and ped with golf carts. I mean, if there's a coexistence, it needs to be well thought through. So happy to have the advocacy groups weigh in here as well. So goal will be, if I may, Mr. Chairman, because I know this is something that is ongoing and a lot of frustration in those districts, let's not sit on this too long. Let's get some proposed language with the committee members and council members that are most affected right now, and have that back to this committee for the next meeting.
I just have a couple of quick questions, if that's the assignment, and I think it's a good one. I didn't look at the state statute. Sorry, should have. Does the state statute define multi-use path? Do we know? Well, the reason I asked that question, I'm trying to figure out what the implications are broadly. Like, would the Lockwood path be a multi-use path? Is East Bay Street getting onto the bridge, is that a multi-use path? Okay.
Councilmember Seekings, it says that golf carts are allowed on, roads that are less than 35 miles per hour, but cities by ordinance can add paths that are off the road under certain conditions, if they're more than 4 feet off the road, or if they're separated by a concrete curb.
That we can add affirmatively the allowance of other vehicles other than bike ped, or that we can add them as restrictive?
So you can add them just case by case. So just one by one. So, enumerating the Ashley River bike path wouldn't create any right to have a golf cart anywhere that it's not already allowed.
All right, well, I think the assignment is clear. We got to go take a look at the state statute, make sure anything we do is not citywide precedent setting, because I don't think there's anyone's got stomach for that sitting around this table. So I get that there is a particular request out there. Let's work with everybody to see what that looks like. And as the mayor said, let's get it done quickly, like next month. Let's have some proposal back. All right. Fair enough. Does that suit everybody? I don't think we need a motion on that. That just seems to be a general pronouncement. All right. Thank you all very much. Next is adoption of amendment to section 19-125, restricting bicycles on the Battery Seawall. Just as a quick note, we've already taken this up, and for some reason it didn't appear on an agenda properly, so it wasn't noticed as a change to an ordinance. Am I right about that, council? So unless there's any question or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we're rolling right along here. Number 8, request support for the Bloomberg Asphalt Art Grant application. Mr. Mathis.
Yes, sir.
Asphalt Art.
This is
Have at it.
something our staff,
This is a new one.
along with our grants manager, have been working on. It's a request to put together an application for $100,000 to Bloomberg for the Asphalt Art Initiative. And we would request approval. This would be in the Lockwood ramp area to hopefully help narrow the lane with delineators and paint to slow down traffic there. So.
Sounds like a worthy endeavor. Any questions? Can I get a motion from the?
Move for
committee?
approval.
Got a motion? And there's
Second.
a second. Any questions, comments about the grant application? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next, man, we're rolling here. Request approval of increase in daily meter bag fees from $18 to $27 to match the increase in hourly
Second.
parking meter rates. et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we've got, I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Somerville to get us going, an update on parking meter installation from Flowbird Parking.
Yes, we have Miss Natalie Snow and Andreas Jansen here with Flowbird. Flowbird is our current vendor that handles our on-street parking meters. And they're here to give us an update on where they are with the installation.
All right. Okay, Ms. Snow, Mr. Jensen. The floor is yours. I'm going to give you 5 minutes or so, and we'll probably have some questions.
Perfect. So we started the deployment of the new parking meters and the pay stations, as well as the rollout of the app and the text to park feature in February. 700 meters were delivered and installed. We have run into supply chain challenges, the port shut down, 2 hurricanes that hit Florida pretty significantly, which have caused some delays in getting the remaining meters installed. And here we are working with the parking department as well as the local field tech service to have a dedicated plan to get the updated batteries and the meters installed, with everything being installed and ready to go by March. So from a hardware perspective, that's where we are. From a parking perspective, obviously it's not been ideal with having the older Civic Smart meters, deployed, especially in the outlining areas with the battery problems with the new meters. So from being able to change the rates remotely and those types of things, we understand the struggle that the hardware delays have caused. But as a good partner, we're working actively with our suppliers, working with Michael and Robbie, working with the local field technicians, just to make sure that there is a plan in place. We know exactly what the rollout schedule is going to be in order to make sure that everything from a hardware perspective is working accordingly as it should be in the city.
Anything else? We good? All right, Mr. Mayor.
So you say March, is that when it'll all be fixed?
Yes, sir. So we've got battery shipments that are coming in to replace some of the outdated batteries that were accidentally sent that were kind of at end of life. We've got 100 coming tomorrow, and then every week will be 125 to 150 batteries that will be sent in rotation for the field service techs that are local here to start those, have those replacements, and then have extra batteries on hand. And then the remaining of the meter shipment, we have 70 meters that were shipped today and will be installed this week that will replace some of the Civic Smart meters. And then we've got 40, 50, and 60 that are shipping every week. Just met with the techs. They can install around 100 new meters within a week. So again, everything should be installed and updated by March.
By March 1?
Fair. 2025, sorry.
March 1, 2025, so 6 weeks from now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just from a funding standpoint, is this a contract that we have with Flowbird?
3-year contract.
3-year contract, and when did it start? And
April, we're 2 years in April.
we're 2 years in April, and we're getting it all up and running officially March 1, 2 years in?
Well, I feel like the contract got signed. We didn't start implementation or installation until February of 2024. If it is a 2-year contract, but yes, it has taken us a year to get all the meters installed and upgraded. It is wildly not ideal.
But have we been prorated on the contract, or is it just the full contract?
No, sir, you don't pay for anything that hasn't been delivered. So
Got it. Okay, that makes me feel better. Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Brady.
Yeah, I just had a more general question because I know Mr. Mathis has fielded a complaint from a constituent for me. So if under the old meters, you could pay for minute increments, right? So like a dime was worth something, a nickel was worth something, a quarter was worth something.
I think it wasn't worth much.
Yeah. But under the current system, my understanding is that the minimum charge is an hour. Is that correct?
That is, but that's a configuration setting. So that was a minimum charge set by the city, because typically you don't want to, and because all of the meters and the pay stations are credit card only, you have to make sure that you're covering your liability as city. So if your credit card processor is charging you X amount of dollars for every transaction, you swipe a credit card for 20 minutes, then you're losing money on that credit card swipe. Whereas the old meters would accept coins, so you could do a 20-minute, payment. So it's totally up to the city. We can change it to have a credit card minimum. I think if you want to continue to be profitable and to make money off of parking, these are things that you should probably take into account and look for. Maybe there's something that we could do from like an app or a text perspective where you can kind of lower that or have like a different increment. I know getting rid of coins was a big thing that the city wanted to
Right.
do, just from collections, having a bunch of, money just kind of floating out there. So really the configuration settings are based off of your business rules. We can work with you however which way you want, but coming from being in parking industry for so long, you need to have some sort of a credit card minimum, or you will lose money day in and day out because you are paying more to process the credit card for 20 minutes than you're going to make for that payment.
So if I could just make a suggestion then to the mayor and the committee, I mean, I would suggest that we figure out the break-even point, because I know like one of my constituents reached out. He was just trying to come downtown, do something basic. Felt that he had been overcharged because he wasn't staying for an hour. He just wanted to pay for 20 minutes and run in and do something, just to figure out what is our break-even point, and then kind of make that the minimum, as opposed to making someone pay the hour is the minimum. So thank you.
There is another answer to that, which we'll get to maybe in a minute, I think. Any other questions for the committee? So I've got a few, if you don't mind. So I'm just looking at my numbers. I think it was a little high, but looks like we have plus or minus 1,220 or so meters in the city. That sound about right to you? I think it's right.
Currently or before
Well, before it was 1,500. I think where I'm going with this is ultimately when you switch out and you've done all the things that you're supposed to do under the contract, it'll be 1,200 plus or minus meters. Right?
correct.
Which, as of to date, we've had 700 installed,
Roughly.
plus or minus. I will just tell you, my district I represent, of the 1,219 meters between Councilmember Gregory and I, we have 1,219 meters. And to say that it has been uneven would be a compliment. It's been brutal out there. I mean, I walk home just about every day up King Street, and you know what I hear? Meters beeping, which is batteries that aren't working, which is meters that are offline. I mean, it's a regular, constant battle for us looking at the operations of our meters. It's inconvenient, it's upsetting to our constituents. And for us at the city, one of our biggest sources of revenue that's not property taxes or business license fees is parking fees. And so while we're not paying Flowbird necessarily any more or less as a result of the slowness of the installation of the meter heads, Mr. Mayor, we're losing revenue. I mean, when people come up to a beeping meter, they're leaving, right? And I'm going to finish and then I'm going to ask a couple questions. And I don't think there's any way for us to calculate in the almost 2 years now that we've been doing business with you all, what we've lost in revenue. But it's not an insignificant number. I'm looking at our CFO and she's agreeing with me. So we got to fix this, and we need to have some assurances other than you standing here saying by March 1st, everything's going to be rosy. I got to tell you, I don't believe that. I don't think that by March 1st, this is all going to be working according to the way that we thought it was going to work. And I will tell you, I sat on the selection committee that selected you over some other qualified people. And there was a couple of reasons why. State of South Carolina, and you sold me anyway, and I think the committee, on the ease of use, the reliability, and the advancements in technology. And we haven't seen any of that. And to Councilmember Brady's point about locals who want to use our parking meters, one of the things that we've always done, and my family is one of the big users of it, is we have local cards that you can use, put or swipe onto the meters. And once you're finished, get money back on it. My understanding is our cards are not working, right? Am I right about that?
So we do have a version of the smart card. It does not provide a refund with the new meters.
All right, so anyway, it's been uneven. I think you're just gonna have to concede that point to us. And for me anyway, and I'll let the mayor and other members of this committee sort of judge that as we go forward, but there's gotta be a huge improvement on the service end of this, and we gotta get this stuff up and running. I mean, 700 meters in 2 years is not acceptable. You say it's been a year, but that contract, which I meant to bring with me, it's sitting on my desk, I highlighted it. We're 2 years in almost in the contract since it was signed by the mayor. Not this one, by the way. And he's been here for a year. So, technology, getting them up and running and making sure they're reliable. Is it a battery issue? Is that why every time I go by, I mean, it's like, sounds like the Flowbird singing when I'm going down King Street, beep, 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 all the time. Is that batteries or what is that?
Oh, I wasn't sure if I could respond.
No, you please, go
Okay.
ahead.
So it was a battery issue. We have found a different battery manufacturer. Those are the batteries that are being shipped and are currently being installed. So we understand that it was a battery issue. I think one of the technology advancements that while the meters have been down, we also rolled out the ability to pay with the app and the ability to text to park. So all of the meters have information and stickers on that. So even if a meter is down, patrons still have the ability to pay to park on street or in one of the parking lots. And I was able to run the numbers, and I would say, and I can work with finance, I mean, they have the ability to run the same numbers. We're looking at, since the beginning of the project and the equipment and the app and everything rolling out as of February last 2024, I think it was the 22nd or the 21st is when everything rolled out. You had just become mayor because we had a new communications person. Since then, we've done close to 200,000 transactions via the app or the mobile payment. So while the meter rollout has not been ideal, and we will admit to that and concede to it has not been great, what we are here is to say, with the advancements of the technology that we were able to roll out is hopefully lessened the hardware payment expectancy and what you would get from a generalized hardware only. We've never had apps or the ability for people to pay digitally before. So we're here, we're a good partner. We have acknowledged our limitations with our other vendors. We've changed vendors to make sure that you're getting the proper batteries here with the solar panels to be able to charge it so that you're not just dependent on battery operations like you've been held to from non-solar working equipment in the past. And we've got a good plan that will get everything, the batteries here and everything functional by that March 1st. And we can formalize the plan, send it to Michael and Robbie that can share it with the rest of the group. I just wasn't sure from a timing perspective if having a presentation or handouts would have worked or been acceptable.
I mean, I, by the way, I did bring the contract. The date of it is the 11th of April, 2023. So we're 2 years, it's about 2 years into the contract. So we just, for a number of reasons, we could sit here and debate it. We need to get up and running.
Yes, sir.
100%. And when I walk home, I don't want to hear Flowbird singing at me. It just,
Absolutely.
Chairman.
yep, sorry, Councilmember Gregory.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Can you monitor the meters electronically
Remotely.
from wherever?
Yes, sir. They're all connected via wireless modem, wireless data modems, and
Will it tell you when the batteries are bad in the meter?
Can you
Yeah.
pull it up right now? Can you get on your smartphone and
Right.
take a look at our meters right now?
Right. That's what I wanted to see.
can I? Yes.
I'm just wondering if you look right now, how many of them aren't working
Well,
right?
we just came from the meter shop, so we went through this right before we came over here. And by the way, I want to introduce myself. I'm Jeff Nethery. I'm not Andreas
Oh,
Jansen,
sorry.
that was mentioned. Andreas couldn't be here, but Natalie asked me to come because I'm the director of product support for our company, and also because I oversee some of our very large meter maintenance operations in the country, including the cities of Washington, D.C., the city of Baltimore, where they have thousands of meters, that we have our own technicians that manage those for the city. And the reason she asked me to come down here is because she recognized and was hearing the feedback from the team here that the battery issue was impacting their work, causing them to spend lots of hours out chasing these problems, just as you have perfectly described. And we will help with that. That's my job, to come in if we need to bring labor in, if we need to assist them in getting ahead of this problem. And that's really the nature of our meetings we had this morning, is to look at those screens, see how many we call them red lights, how many red lights we had on the screen this morning, how much it's going to take to get on top of that as the correct batteries come in charged, and we can get them out there in the field.
So how many red lights did we have this morning?
Upwards total. So we're talking about low batteries, dead batteries, communication failures. Those are the three big ones, right at 300.
So almost half of our meters that are out there right now, of the 700, 300 out of 700 are low battery, not working, or not communicating.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was a rhetorical question. It's okay.
Yeah, approximately 300.
What's the life?
The life of the battery should be 3 to 5 years, depending on. So they're solar charged, so they have a solar panel that trickle charges the battery, and they normally can continue to charge and recharge for 3 to 5 years. And then as we bring them in and test them, if they start to lose the ability to hold a charge, then we would phase them out and recommend you put a new one in.
I'm sure you've done a cost benefit analysis on this. And my question is, do we have any savings staff-wise? Because folks used to have to go and empty the meters and do this with the meters. I mean, are we saving anything?
By elimination of coin, is that what you're talking about?
By elimination of a whole lot of folks that had to monitor those meters and take the money out. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And my question is, okay, what are we saving?
I think that would be better answered by the finance department. We weren't in charge, and I know that the collections is done by a company called ABM. We don't know how many people were part of that team and can't answer that question, your question.
But typically with all municipalities that do coin collection, it's one of the larger pieces of the staff, the staffing components to collect it, to process it, deposit it, reconcile it. It's a big, the coin piece of it is very big, and lots of cities are phasing it out.
And that's why I'm bringing it up. I'm just trying to see whether or not there's some savings here that balances things off. At some point, maybe we can get into that. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? I think, sorry. I think sort of maybe, I think I'm the one who asked this to be on the agenda. Y'all have given us a target date of March 1st.
Yes, sir.
We work very closely with Mr. Mathis and Mr. Somerville. They'll tell us. Maybe come back and let us know how we're doing in April. Make sure we're up and running, right? And just looking, I think there's an answer to Councilmember Gregory's, is that we still have, 2.5 people on payroll basically to take care of some of these issues that otherwise we wouldn't have to if they were operating properly, right? Okay, so maybe by April we can get back together and see how we're doing. That'll be a 2-year anniversary of your contract, and hopefully the 1st-year anniversary of everything working. Thanks. Any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, next, if there is a next, there is, on page 2. All right, presentation, albeit briefly, on the Senate Street request for conversion of street from 2-way to 1-way. There is no action required, nor do I believe this to be particularly controversial. So I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Story and have her tell us what's cooking. Please.
Have a PowerPoint up here, but essentially Senate Street is a very narrow, densely residential street on the peninsula going between Hugie and Congress Street. The narrowness, the speed of the traffic cutting through from Hugie to Congress creates a safety concern for the neighborhood residents. They have completed a petition. Their neighborhood representative and their Councilmember Mitchell, have preliminarily approved us to convert to one-way operations. And we have done a traffic study. We decided that going from two-way to one-way northbound would be the best way to improve safety and to ensure there won't be that nuisance cut-through traffic from Hugie to Congress Street.
Okay, it's Councilmember Mitchell's district. I'm assuming he's been fully briefed on this?
That's
Yes.
correct. We reached out to a council member and he supports.
Okay. We're happy to see your PowerPoint, although I don't see it up on screen.
No action, right?
Yeah, right. No action required, right? Reporting, if you want to share it with anybody who's got a question, that'd be fine. All right, we'll pass this along, but if there's no action required, is the reason there's no action required is that's within y'all's discretion to make this decision?
No, sir, it has to go, per ordinance, it has to go through a public hearing process. So we'll bring that to TNT committee in February.
Oh, it's still got to go to public hearing. All right.
Yes, sir. This today was just for informational purposes.
By acclamation, unless there's any objection, have at it. All right, thanks. Next, Councilmember McBride has requested presentation on the River Road Roundabout and new Charleston County School District School. Okay, Councilmember McBride.
Yes, thank you. This is a very important issue that I'm concerned about. Even if the school and the roundabout and all the traffic road improvements are done on time, I'm still concerned about the impacts to the community around the school and the safety of all the traffic that's going to be added to Upper River Road. So when I first presented this topic 2 months ago, as far as I knew, everything was on track. Since then, I found out at a town hall last week with some of the contractors that are building the school and doing the roundabout or traffic circle in front of the school. And several school board members attended, and I found out a lot of new information as well as the TNT team did. James Wallace went to a meeting a couple weeks ago to get some updates. So what I would like to do, time is of the essence here, both in this meeting right now, but also as to what we do as far as municipal consent with regards to the school. I prepared a 4-minute and 40-second video to succinctly explain what's going on, give the background, and I have a part of the video is me on the site of the school to show my concerns. And I think the IT team has that video ready to show.
All right, they're queuing it up right now, Councilmember.
I see it. It says
All
10
right.
minutes, but it's only the first 5 minutes is all we need. Thanks for the opportunity. Situation at the rest of the chase is about the new downtown elementary school, which opens in August of 2025. The location is on River Road, north of Midbank, between there and Maine. More specifically between Murray Road and Brownswood Roads. The new school will bring 700 students, 2nd through 5th grades, and an estimated 200 extra cars per day, plus school buses on an already highly trafficked dangerous road. There are some improvements in the current plan, but we need to look hard at other improvements to make new recommendations to SCDOT and the Charleston County. This is District 3, so you need District 3 in orange. Stone River Bridge, Stone River Bridge right there. Johns Island, James Island. Those are the county districts that overlap. This will be in County District 8. And this is the location of the school that's being built. There's another view. There's the school. There's River Road. Maybank Highway. Zooming in again. There's the school where it's being built. River Road, Brownswood Road, to the north, west, and Murray Road to the southeast. So I'm going to show you a video I filmed on site. I'm standing right about here on River Road. It's in front of the construction of the school. Hey, right here at side of the new elementary school, which is right there, and it's in between Brownswood Road and Murraywood Road, closer to Brownswood side on River Road. River Road. So there's going to be somewhere around here a roundabout put in front of the school, between River Road and the school, and River Road will direct into the roundabout, which will help with the traffic increase. But my concern is the rest of River Road, as you can see, no shoulders at all, literally no shoulder. There's no planning to stormwater runoff ditch on both sides. February of 2024, right here with that leachate truck, still 4,000 gallons of leachate. On both sides, no shoulder. And it's like that down most of River Road. So, this school's having, it's gonna have 700 kids, 7th to 5th grade. School buses, more traffic. There is an input on the back side of the school that you can get there from Brownswood, and Brownswood's over there. Murraywood Road is that way. So some cars are gonna get to the school from the neighborhood behind the school. But either way, we're talking about a lot of traffic, 700 kids. And River Road is a very dangerous road already, from what I just described. So, just wanted to do a video to illustrate my concerns. Is there any way we can get data to figure out if the funding was available from the county or the state to be able to get maybe shoulders wider? Maybe you have to add some kind of extra stormwater pipes or something in these ditches. Even if we can't do the whole of River Road, at least portions of River Road, especially because again, you have school buses coming in here. And yes, again, I know there'll be a roundabout somewhere in here. River Road will be diverted into. So directly in front of the school, it will be safer. But I'm again talking about in between that roundabout and Murraywood Road. I'm sorry, that's Brownwood Road to the north and Murraywood Road to the south. That's a very dangerous road. So I wanted to illustrate it so we can start the conversation. Thanks. Okay, you can stop the video there. And then if you're able to pull up the PowerPoint slide, just so we can look at the map as we talk about this. So since I prepared that video, I later found out that SCDOT, and maybe TNT can talk about this because James Walls was in the meeting. But again, I want to stress that my concern was before there was any issues, I was concerned, as you can see, that even with the roundabout, when that's completed, and that will help a lot, that the rest of River Road is not addressed. And I want to make it clear to the public that River Road is an SCDOT road. It's not owned by the city, managed by the city. But it's incumbent upon us as the city is for municipal consent to lobby the best we can to get the safety improvements that we need SCDOT to do on River Road. Instead of just putting a roundabout in there and calling it good, that's not good enough. In addition, if you can see behind the school, that site there, you can go to the next slide. I got an overlay of what the school is going to look like. There you go. So that's what the school is going to look like. They can see the traffic circle up there on River Road, and it's going to connect to some neighborhoods. You see Moonbeam there to the south, and Claybrook Street to the left of the school. A lot of traffic is going to come through those neighborhoods off of Brownswood to get to the school because they want to avoid River Road. So there's going to be a lot of school traffic going through those neighborhoods that right now don't have traffic going through. I know we have a process in the city for, a street to 75% of a street has to request a speed hump, and then the city will come out and do an analysis, and it takes, a few weeks or months or whatever. But proactively, I feel like that we as a city, what we can do is knowing that traffic's going to go through these neighborhoods to get speed humps put in there preemptively, bypass the normal processes that we use, knowing that this school is going to add a tremendous amount of traffic on an already very over trafficked road. And these neighborhoods are going to suffer as a result. So pause there. And then the next statement is, then I found out now that SCDOT, I believe, might be doing some more improvements on River Road that was just announced a couple weeks ago, and James Wallace from TNT was in that meeting, that may delay the roundabout getting done and the traffic improvements on River Road, which means it may not be ready in time before the August opening of the school. And that would be even more catastrophic because then people would have to be routed through those neighborhoods to get to the school, because people can't be driving on River Road and turning left into the school at 7:30 in the morning. Everyone knows what traffic is like in front of any school in the country at 7:30 in the morning. It's chaos. So I'll pause there, and I want to turn it over to the TNT, James Wallace or whoever's there from TNT to talk about this for any updates on SCDOT's timeline.
Okay, by the way, thank you, council member, for that presentation. It was very well done and super informative. We're all, just so you know, you're not sitting around the table here, but everyone's paid very close attention. I'm going to let Mr. Somerville and Mr. Wallace give us any update. I see Mr. Wallace standing at the microphone, so we'll bypass Robbie and we'll hand it right off to you if that's okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I am James Wallace. I am here. So a couple things. DOT did come back during the permitting process, and they are requiring curb and gutter back to the project limits of the project. So that's not just the roundabout, that extends all the way back to the boundaries that you saw on the aerial there. So property lines, basically. Because of that, CCSD is concerned that they won't be able to open the school in time because they don't yet have their permits. So that's when we had a meeting a couple of weeks back with the project team, and they kind of discussed a plan B to opening the school that we've kind of been discussing internally. They haven't presented anything officially to anyone yet. I told them that they'd have to coordinate with the council member and the mayor and the executive team on that. But basically they would look at not having the roundabout installed yet, or turn lanes are required on Brownswood and River as well. So right now you have one turn lane on River to go left or right. The mitigation requires 2 turn lanes, one left and one right. So that needs to be installed before the school opens as well. And then a turn lane on Brownswood Road turning onto River is also required as part of the mitigation. So they're coming to us and saying that they may not make that date in time to open the school, and kind of came with us with plan B. How are we going to do plan B? How are we going to route traffic? Haven't really vetted that out very much yet, because we don't know if that's going to be coming to fruition. They told us February they'd have a better idea of that.
So just so I'm hearing you correctly, currently, they don't feel like they will have the roundabout done or the turning lanes for Murraywood and Brownswood, or is it Murray?
Brownswood and River Road. They feel that there is a potential that they will not have either of those mitigation efforts installed.
Yeah, that's a pretty big problem, I would say. And this is a result of additional work from the original permit that DOT is making them do, or is this part of their original permit?
That part wasn't exactly clear. We've been kind of taking a backseat to this. We reviewed the traffic study and approved it. We reviewed the site plan and approved it. But in terms of the actual offsite mitigation, since it's DOT right away, we let them take the lead on that permitting process. They just told us that DOT came back and said, you need to put curb and gutter for your roundabout and your project limits on River Road.
Again, our permit issuance, when we provided the permit for them to start construction, it makes no reference then to the roundabout or the turn lanes?
That's correct. We let DOT permit that. We permitted the actual site plan and the neighborhood work. We did tie the certificate of construction completion, or CO, to the offsite mitigation being installed.
You did. All
So,
right,
yes.
that's what I needed.
Correct. Yes, we have that letter. Yes.
Thank you. That's where we're heading with this.
All right.
Do we have a hook that allows us to not let that school open until that mitigation is completed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's where the mayor's headed.
Yeah, we have a letter that has gone out or going out to the school board just letting them know that this is a real concern and that we, unless we hear a very viable plan otherwise, if this we're going to hold by the permit requirements for the CO, TCO too, just because we will be the ones hearing about it. And to Councilman McBride's point, it does set up a pretty dangerous situation. So want to work with them, want to figure out how to address this, but I think the sooner we can put them on notice unequivocally, the better. So that's where we are.
I have a really quick question. Does the mitigation plan include a lighting plan along with it?
Did not. I do want to bring up one other thing because the council member brought it up. So in terms of traffic calming and speed humps in the neighborhood, we did tell CCSD to preemptively go out, try to get the signatures, engage the residents, because that's our process. When we've tried to include traffic calming in the past as part of a proposed development, kind of like projecting the need for it, our fire department has pushed back very hard on that because they say you don't have a proven need, so we don't want you to put the traffic calming in. They're part of the approval process for the traffic calming. So that's why we kind of push CCSD to go out preemptively and try to get the signatures ahead of time.
Where
Okay.
are they in that process?
When I last spoke with them, they said they were still doing it. That was a couple weeks ago, but they didn't give me an exact update.
Probably a good idea to get the school district updated based on this meeting that they've got a lot of work to do.
Is there the potential that we can have a school completed that can't be used?
It seems to be that they were very confident that the school would be available for use by the start of the school year, just not the offsite mitigation.
Yeah, I think Mr. Wallace, what he's trying to say is that's going to be a decision we're going to have to make as to whether or not to give them a CO if they don't have the mitigation done. The school could be heated and air conditioned and have all the stuff it needs, but getting in and out is a big deal for
Correct.
safety. All right. We get it.
Thank you.
Councilmember McBride, we got
Yeah,
it.
if I could make this suggestion, maybe get this on the agenda for next month for an update. Maybe invite some CCSD representatives to help, talk through this, because for safety standpoint, I think we were all kind of saying the same thing, like, hey, we can't open the school unless those mitigation measures are in place. I also do know, because a lot of school board members came to my town hall, they have a lot of ramifications if it doesn't open on time, because there's a lot of logistics involved with the schools are going to close. So there's no good answer here, but we got to get the right answer, whatever that is. And I asked for this to be added to the agenda next month so we can get an update on everything we're talking about, if it's okay.
What I would suggest, if y'all are okay with this, is the gentleman sitting to my right, the mayor, I think we ought to ask him to get on the phone with the CCSD and tell them exactly what we heard today, that there's some deep concern about the mitigation efforts that are being advanced, and that there's likely a large group of council members who are not going to be inclined to have COs issued until that mitigation is done, and then let the mayor report back to us quickly, and then we'll put this on an agenda and we'll see how and where we want to proceed. But let's get the mayor on the horn like immediately on this one. I think that's probably the best step one. Unless he objects, that's what I'm going to recommend.
I second that.
I think we just did. Yes, sir. Councilmember Brady.
Yeah, and I would just point out, I used to represent this area as well, and it ties into my district representing Savannah Highway. And we have to look at this holistically as well, with construction starting on the flyover. Oftentimes traffic backs up onto the Limehouse, if not all the way up towards the Walgreens there at Main Road and Savannah Highway. So the school's allowed to open without that mitigation, and traffic starts backing up river with the left turn onto Main. I mean, the already Carmageddon that goes on over there is just going to be completely exacerbated, which then begins to impact flow on Savannah Highway as it continues to make its way towards Main Road. So looking at it as a whole picture, I think it's important that, the mitigation, we put the pressure on because it has broader impacts throughout the grid.
I think I don't like to predict the future, but based on what I've heard around this table, I don't see a future with the school open without mitigation being complete. But again, let's let the mayor do his thing with the CCSD, report back to you, Councilmember McBride. We will put this back on an agenda. What it looks like on that agenda, I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll have something. Yeah, okay,
One final comment,
sure.
just really quick, is, even let's just say, we get all the mitigation measures put in place. My original point I was trying to make before I knew that there's delays was that with the rapid growth on Johns Island and West Ashley, we know we're all struggling with that, and the infrastructure's behind across the board. But this school, open, even with everything perfectly as going as planned, is going to have a very significant impact on that part of River Road, which is already, it leads to obviously Maybank and River, and as Councilman Brady said, up in Maine, which is they're both already overwhelmed. So even with everything in place, everything going as currently planned, we have a long-term problem. And I know we don't have any answers now, but I just need to keep drawing attention to it because we need help big time.
I believe the message has been received loud and clear. So thank you for your efforts. And we'll stay on this, right? Okay, the next item on our agenda is an executive session to get legal advice regarding a proposed settlement on the Avondale intersections. I'm told that we do need to have that session. So if I can have a motion to go into executive session in the mayor's office, if that's okay with you, Mayor?
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Any discussion all in favor of the Traffic and Transportation Committee going into executive session? Say aye, aye.
Aye.
We are now in executive session. We'll be back. before this committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Very productive.